Hola clase, welcome back to yet another screencast para Español Uno. Today we will be covering the expression I y no hay. And we will also be talking about the interrogative words cuántos and cuántas, which are often used with both of these expressions. Remember that you can pause at any time to take your notes, and remember that you can watch this screencast over and over again to make sure that you understand everything. And remember that screencasts are designed to keep the integrity of 100% target language in the classroom. Okay, so let's move forward and learn what these two expressions mean. Okay, so I means there is or there are. And so in Spanish, we have one single term to talk both about singular and plural. So in English, you use there is or there are to talk about the quantity of things. In Spanish, we simply use I. So let's talk about there is. Hay un profesor en la clase. There is a teacher in the class. And now let's talk about the plural expression. There are. Hay 5 profesores en la clase. There are 5 teachers in the class. So remember, one expression to talk both about singular and plural in Spanish. Okay, let's talk about la función de I, the function of I. So I kind of just went over it. We use I to talk about cantidad, to talk about the quantity of things, of people, of objects, of ideas, of animals. We use I to talk about how much there is or there are of something. Okay, so let's look at some ejemplos, some modelos. Hay 3 libros en el pupitre. There are 3 books on the desk. Hay una silla en mi clase. There is a chair in my class. Now, pay attention here. Then we say una silla. We're using the artículo indefinido, una. And often when we're talking about just one object or one thing or one person, we use the definite or indefinite article. And really what we're trying to imply is that there's only one of them. Okay, so hay una silla en mi clase. There's a chair in my class. And that implies that there's only one. Hay 7 días en una semana. There are 7 days in a week. So here we go. Días is plural. That's what I'm talking about. That is the amount of days I'm talking about in a week. But I'm still just using I. But in English, you would say there are. Hay una mesa en la oficina. There is a table in the office. Again, we use the artículo indefinido, the indefinite article, to express the fact that there's only one in there. But I say una mesa. And then again, mesa is singular. We use there is in English. Again, in Spanish, we're still using just I. And número 5, hay 15 chicas en mi clase. There are 15 girls in my class. And that is really the function of I. Now let's look at no I. So in Spanish, when we talk about the negative of things, the no comes before the verb. And technically, I here, we're looking at a verb. Okay? So no I, it's just a negative expression when we're talking about the quantity of things. Okay, it's pretty simple. So no I. In English, this means there isn't or there aren't. So now we're just going from the positive expression of I, there is or there are, to the negative expression of I, no I. There isn't or there aren't. Again, we use one expression in Spanish to the equivalent of 2 in English for singular versus plural. So let's look at some ejemplos. Número 1. No hay tarea hoy. Hooray! There isn't homework today. Número 2. No hay 8 días en una semana. And this, we have a little mistake here. This should be, there aren't. So what we do is we make a little quick action. Número 2. No hay 8 días en una semana. There aren't 8 days in a week. Days is what I'm talking about, the quantity of. So it's plural, but again, in Spanish, we just use the singular expression. Número 3. No hay escuela mañana. Es sábado. There isn't school tomorrow. Okay, it is Saturday. And it looks like we technically need just a little comma right there. Great. Número 4. No hay 10 carpetas en la mesa. There aren't 10 binders on the table. Y número 5. No hay un elefante en la clase. There isn't an elephant in the class. And then again, un elefante. Okay, we talk about an elephant, but we really are implying that we're talking about the quantity of just one elephant. Okay, so now let's look at the question. ¿Hay o no hay? Okay, so what we got here is Paco and Señor Isern talking. And Paco says, ¿Hay tarea hoy, Señor Isern? So what he's asking the question, is there homework today, Señor Isern? So now we're using I to make a question, to ask whether there is or there isn't, or there aren't or there aren't something happening, okay? The quantity of something. ¿Hay tarea hoy, Señor Isern? Is there homework today, Señor Isern? And Señor Isern says, sí, hay tarea hoy, Paco. Yes, there is homework today, Paco. And then Lola says, ¿hay elefantes en la clase? It's a little crazy. El señor Isern, no, Lola. No hay elefantes en la clase. Okay? There aren't elephants in class. Hay estudiantes en la clase. However, there are students in class. And the last example, Luis says, ¿hay 12 meses en un año? Are there 12 months in a year? El señor Isern says, sí, Luis, hay 12 meses en un año. There are 12 months in a year. Okay? Another question that we can ask with I is just simply adding the que, interrogative word in front of it to talk about what's there. Okay? So this is kind of a tricky one when we look at the direct translation. So if we say, ¿Qué hay en tu mochila? In English, we're asking, what is in your backpack? But really, if we use the truly fully correct structure in English, you truly would be asking, what is there in your backpack? What objects, what things are in your backpack? Now, we don't do that in English. What we say is we say, what's in your backpack? However, this is still the expression of there is or there are. Okay, so ¿Qué hay en tu mochila? What is there in your backpack? Well, what do we have here? And what do we have here? 2 libros y 3 cuadernos. So, ¿qué hay en tu mochila? En mi mochila hay 2 libros y 3 cuadernos. And then just make notice that in mi mochila is just very specific information about the fact that these materials are in my backpack. So, en mi mochila hay 2 libros y 3 cuadernos. You could technically just say, hay 2 libros y 3 cuadernos. And en mi mochila could go either before the expression of I or at the end of tres cuadernos. That's interchangeable. We'll talk more about that. Okay, ¿qué hay? So the question here would be, ¿qué hay en la clase? What is there in the class? And the answer is, en la clase hay 30 pupitres. Again, you could just say, hay 30 pupitres. And you could also just take en la clase and shift it, okay, behind 30 pupitres, and then you would say, hay 30 pupitres en la clase. Interchangeable structure there. Okay, so now let's look at cuantos versus cuantas, and with the expression of I. So cuantos or cuantas, here we're asking of how many of something there is or there are. So cuantos will refer to nouns, sustantivos that are masculino, plural, and cuantas will refer to sustantivos that are femenino, plural. And we won't talk about singular pieces here because that would be a different question. And instead of asking how many, you would be asking how much of something there is or there are. So cuantos, masculino, plural, and cuantas, femenino, plural. So now let's ask the question. ¿Cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase? And now let's look at the word estudiante. In estudiantes, we know that el estudiante is masculino and la estudiante is femenino. Okay? So in Spanish, when we are referring to a group of individuals and there's at least one masculine individual in it, then we use the masculine form of the noun to refer to the entire group. So here, because we have a chico, chica, chico, chica, it's all mixed in, we talk about cuantos estudiantes to generalize, and we use the masculine form of it. So this is why we're using cuantos in this question. So, ¿cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase? And the answer would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hay 9 estudiantes en la clase. How many students are there in the class? And again, in English, the question would be phrased more like, how many students are in the class? And we omit the there, but it is part of the structure. Hay 9 estudiantes en la clase. Excelente. Okay, now cuántos or cuántas? Why don't you take a little try on this one? Why don't you take a little stab at it and pause the screencast for just a minute? Okay, and try to fill out whether it would be cuántos or cuántas based on your subject, what you're talking about. So basically, it's going to be based on your sustantivo. So in this first one, is it mesas, masculino or femenino? Well, we know that mesas is femenino. So here we would say cuántas. So go ahead and pause it. Try it out. Okay, welcome back. Now let's see how you did. So número 2, plumas is femenino. So we would be asking cuántas plumas hay en la clase? How many pens are there in the class? Okay, número 2, estudiantes. Estudiantes here, what's happening is we're probably generalizing. There's probably, when we talk about students, it's a mix of boys and girls. So again, if we're generalizing a group and there's at least one boy in there mixed in with the girls, we're going to use the masculino. So, ¿cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase? Pupitres, we know is masculino. So, ¿cuántos pupitres hay en la clase? Número 5, ¿cuántos escritorios hay en la clase? How many teacher desks are there in the class? And then, número 6, ¿cuántas chicas hay en la clase? Okay, how many girls? Now we know we're talking about chicas hay en la clase versus ¿cuántos chicos hay en la clase? And número 8, ¿cuántas carpetas hay en la clase? How many binders are there in the class? So hopefully you did pretty well on that. And now we've got just a couple more slides. So responde la pregunta con una frase completa. So answer the question with a complete sentence or respond the question with a complete sentence. And here's the ejemplo. Here's your modelo. Looks like we missed an S there, Senor Discern. So we can do that right away, just like that. And then we go back over here. So here's our example. ¿Cuántos días hay en febrero? How many days are there in February? And here we're talking about this year, there are 29 of them. So the answer would be, hay 29 días en febrero. There are 29 days in February. Okay, so here's número uno, número dos, número tres. Why don't you take a little stab at that? So go ahead and pause it. Okay, let's check your answers. So, ¿cuántos bolígrafos hay en la clase? We're looking at 13 of them. So the answer here would be, hay 13 bolígrafos en la clase. And, ¿cuántos cuadernos hay en el pupitre? Hay 6 cuadernos en el... Oops. And a little bit of a mistake here. So, ok, now número 2. ¿Cuántos cuadernos hay en el pupitre? Hay 6 cuadernos en el pupitre. Y número 3. ¿Cuántas carpetas, femenino, hay en tu mochila? Hay 2 carpetas en mi mochila. How many binders are there in your backpack? And there are 2 binders in my backpack. Okay, we've got one more here. So now let's look at I. Once again, responde la pregunta. Okay, so now we're, again, this is gonna be a yes or no answer question. Okay, hay 5 estudiantes en la clase. So the question is, are there 5 students in the class? And the answer is going to be no, 28. So we need to write a complete sentence saying no. Instead, there are 28 students in the class. So, no, hay 28 estudiantes en la clase versus 5. So, ¿hay 16 profesores en la clase? No, there are 2. Número 2, ¿hay 15 hojas de papel en la carpeta? No, instead there are 20 sheets of paper in the binder. And número 3, ¿hay 22 chicos en la clase? No, there are not 22 chicos, there are 22 chicas. So pause it. Okay, let's check it out. ¿Hay 2 profesores en la clase? No, sorry. ¿Hay 16 profesores en la clase? The answer is no. Hay 2 profesores en la clase. Número 2, ¿hay 15 hojas de papel en la carpeta? No, hay 20 hojas de papel en la carpeta. Y número 3, ¿hay 22 chicos en la clase? No, hay 22 chicas en la clase. Okay, terminología importante. This is stuff you gotta know. So, I means there is or there are. Okay, and no I, there isn't or there aren't. And the only other word that goes with this is cantidad, which is quantity. And we need ¿cuántos? How many? Whoops. Okay, so this is the terminología that it's importante, and we've got I, there is or there are, no I, there isn't or there aren't, cantidad, which is quantity, and then the 2 questions that go with it, the 2 interrogative words, palabras interrogativas, ¿cuántos? To ask about how many there is or there are of anything that's masculino, en plural, and cuántas, how many there is or there are of something that is femenino, plural. Okay, hope you had easy time on that one. You can watch it whenever you want again.